We're on now, YouTube.
Okay. So actually, before we get started, we just wanted to let everybody know that there was an issue with the link to the original meeting. It was updated on, is that feedback coming from me? It was updated on the posting for the meeting, and it was updated on the city's website. But just in case people needed a minute, although it looks like we've got 70 people, 71 participants, so certainly people must have found the correct link.
Okay, we'll begin. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Revere School Committee. Please rise to salute the flag. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call the members.
Mr. Stacy Bronson Rizzo.
Here.
Mr. Anthony D'Ambrosio.
Here.
Mr. Michael Ferranti.
Here.
Ms. Susan Gravelis.
Here.
Mr. Frederick Sanella.
Here.
Ms. Carol Ty. Ms. Carol Ty.
Here.
Mayor Brian Arrigo.
Here. Good evening, everyone. We're going to begin tonight's meeting with public speak. If you are an attendee and would like to speak, please raise your hand. I think there's one attendee currently with their hand raised. Just a couple of reminders. We do have, and we've been very lenient with this, but we do have a 15-minute limit on public speak. So if everyone could keep their comments succinct, that would be very helpful. We would ask that everyone keep their comments to under 3 minutes. And when you do address the committee, please give us your name and address for the record. And we'll try to get through as many people who have their hands up, but we've been, as I said, very accommodating in terms of the 15-minute limit. And some of my colleagues on the committee would like me to be a little bit more firm on the 15 minutes. So with that, we'll jump right into anyone that has their hands raised. I see 5 hands raised at this point. And hopefully we can get through those comments. Again, please keep your comments to 3 minutes, and please address us with your name and address. Thank you.
So the first person, Mr. Mayor, is Robin Dapolito. Robin, you should be able to unmute and speak.
I'm so sorry. I must have pressed by accident. I don't have a comment, but I just want to be a participant. So sorry.
No worries. The next person is Rebecca Wood.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Wood. I do not care to give my address publicly. I'm just speaking because I've heard there are plans for special ed, early childhood, and English language learners to return to school in person. As a parent of a special ed student, I beg you to reconsider. Special ed students often have medical complexities, which put them at a higher risk of complications from coronavirus. Additionally, it requires teachers and staff to place themselves and their families at risk as well. It's something I refuse to do. Why aren't teachers heavily involved in the planning for the upcoming year? They are educated, talented, creative, and most importantly, they know their students and their families well. Why is the school committee and administrators who have the least knowledge of and contact with students and families making these crucial decisions in a bubble and excluding everyone else? These teachers should be listened to, and if not taking the lead on, be included in planning the remote learning for the upcoming school year. Thank you for your time.
Bear with me for just a minute. I have to.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Sinella,
as a point of information, is it an option that they can choose not to give their address and their name? I didn't realize that was an option. I thought that was a requirement.
so generally it is a requirement. I can understand if somebody may not want to provide their.
Okay, so it's an option that we can
but yeah,
exercise.
I think we can exercise the option, right?
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I would just say that, well, I suppose we're live, we're on TV also when we're in the committee room. I was going to say that when we're on Zoom and you're on the internet, it might be a little bit different sharing your address than if you're in a room with somebody, but those meetings are televised as well. So the next person to speak is Karen Suttle.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Karen Suttle. I also would prefer not to give my address if that's okay. I'm going to be reading a statement on behalf of a colleague. Hello, esteemed members of the school committee. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm sorry that my thoughts are being presented for me by another, but I do not yet have professional teaching status, and as such, I thought it would be prudent for me to allow a teacher with PTS to present my thoughts to you. Many have already expressed their concerns about the current plan to have certain special education, early childhood, and EL students return to school in person. I would instead like to put Revere in the broader context of the country and the world. You all know the statistics and data for Revere, for the state, and for the country. Governor Baker has been clear about his position and how we should all approach this pandemic. COVID is not going away. Your actions, no matter where you live or where you work, will determine in many aspects how this virus spreads, Baker said. Governor Baker's thoughts have also been echoed by Dr. Kwong, the chair of the Revere Board of Health. In her July 31st COVID update, Dr. Kwong said, "The fight is far from over, and I want to take this time to remind everyone that we are all safer at home. Your chance of transmitting or getting the virus is none if we are at home." Dr. Kong also recommended that we avoid crowds or groups whenever possible if we do need to leave our home. Now, I want to broaden the conversation to the country as a whole. The list of US schools that have reopened in person and resulted in new COVID-19 cases contains over 600 schools. Here are just some of those schools. In Georgia, Cherokee County District, 1 middle school student, 2 elementary school students, and 1 kindergarten teacher. In Georgia's Gwinnett County Public Schools, 260 teachers positive or potentially exposed. In Georgia's North Paulding High School, 6 confirmed students and 3 staff. In Mississippi Corinth School District, there were 5 high school students, 1 middle school student, and 1 elementary school employee. In Tennessee Alcoa City Schools, there were 3 high school students, 1 middle school student, and 1 elementary school student. Again, this is only a fraction of the schools that have had COVID cases directly linked to their reopening. As members of the school committee, I would like to assume that you ran for this position because you love the city and this community, and that you want to make Revere the best that it can be. If you force this school district to do anything other than a truly virtual remote start for all, you will be adding our schools to this list. Is that what you want? The decisions come down to you. Is this the legacy you want to leave behind? Thank you for your time.
The next person to speak is Maddie Cavallo, sorry.
Hi, my name is Madeline Ceballos. I am a resident of Wakefield, but I currently teach first grade at the Hill School. Thank you, school committee members and Dr. Kelly for allowing me to speak tonight. I would like to speak as to the district's plans to send certain populations of students back to school in September. Sending any students and staff back to school while COVID cases are climbing in Revere is unacceptable. While I understand and appreciate the positive intention and desire to academically support our neediest populations, I vehemently oppose sending SLG, life skills, EC, and non-English proficient students back to school in September. I hope to make 3 brief points which I ask you to consider. First, the Revere Public Schools Code of Conduct states, Revere Public Schools administrators, teachers, paraprofessionals, and all other employees make a constructive effort to protect the student from conditions that jeopardize the student's health, safety, and well-being, or from conditions that are detrimental to the learning process. The National Education Association Code of Ethics under Principle 1, Commitment to the Student, Point 4, states a similar sentiment. Sending any students back to school in September would be sending them into conditions that are harmful to their health and safety. Their learning conditions would be detrimental as a result of the restrictions under which we must operate because of COVID-19. Sending these students back into school buildings in September would be a direct violation of our very own code of conduct. My second point is as follows. A few short weeks ago, our city leadership made a pledge to work towards being an anti-racist community. Sending non-English proficient students back to school before it is safe, even with the most positive intentions, is an act that further perpetuates the systemic racism we know exists in our country and our community. We know that COVID-19 affects Black and Brown populations at far higher rates than other populations as a result of systemic racism. Our population of low-level English learners consists almost entirely of Black and Brown children who come from Black and Brown families. How then, after making such a critical pledge, can we even consider the thought of sending these students back to school when the infection rate in Revere is climbing and when our quote typical or English proficient students can enjoy the safety of their homes? That is unjustifiable and negates the very promise that was made to this community to value and protect people of color. Third, our students with substantial special needs have their own painful societal history of being shunned or separated from the community or used as test subjects because of their differences. While the sentiment of bringing them back to school to support their academics is supportive and kind, the reality is that most everything these students need would be prohibited from being provided to them because of COVID restrictions. The quality of education they would receive would greatly be diminished. Is it truly worth the risk to their health, emotional well-being, and their lives? In closing, learning is a lifelong process. The time on learning that was lost in spring or maybe lost this coming fall because of this pandemic can be made up for by every single one of us, except of course by those of us who die from COVID. When you became members of the school committee or administration or city government, not one of you made that choice knowing that you would one day be making this one. I cannot imagine or fathom the immense responsibility that you have each carried and continue to carry throughout this pandemic, and for that I thank you. No one asked for this, but this is where we are and we must adjust. We must decide what matters most in the big picture of our lives and in the lives of the students we serve. Any cases of sickness and death from COVID-19 that results from sending staff and students back to school before it's safe would have been 100% preventable. Please consider our code of conduct, anti-racism pledge, and the larger picture of health and safety for our students and our community when making the decision to send our most vulnerable students back to school before it's safe. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is Ashley Waterberg.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, Ashley.
Okay, thank you. My name is Ashley Waterberg. I live in Salem, Massachusetts, and I am a school social worker at the Susan B. Anthony Middle School. And I am speaking from the perspective of a school social worker. I first want to acknowledge the amount of time and energy that all of you have dedicated and continue to dedicate to making such incredibly difficult decisions for the Revere Public Schools. Thank you for your public service. Revere Public Schools Administration, along with Mayor Arrigo, have decided that RPS will begin the year in a remote learning model for the majority of students due to the high levels of COVID-19 in Revere. The majority of students exclude students deemed at particularly high risk, including students with disabilities and English language learners. However, there are many other kinds of adversities that put Revere students at high risk. What are some of these examples of adversity experienced by Revere students? Poverty, learning disabilities, having a guardian with mental illness, xenophobia, being an English language learner, being homeless, being a victim of violence, abuse, or neglect, experiencing racism, having a lack of internet, domestic violence, homophobia or transphobia, having a family member that's incarcerated. There are many unintended consequences to singling out special education students and English language learners. It could put these two groups of students and the people with whom they live at increased risk of contracting COVID. It could lead these two groups of students to internalize negative feelings about themselves. And it could lead to further polarization within the community by allowing specific groups of students to access services that other groups of students are not allowed to access. Anticipated questions that the two groups of students who are allowed to go to school in person may ask when they are in school. Why am I allowed to go to school in person right now when it's too dangerous for my friends to go? Why do I need to go to school in person right now, but my friends don't? Is there something wrong with me? Why am I being treated differently than so many of my friends? We unfortunately cannot eliminate COVID-19 right now, but we can put our energy into identifying every student in RPS who does not have internet access and finding ways to get them connected, developing a robust remote learning program that does everything in our power to meet special ed and ELL students' academic and safety needs, assigning each staff member to a specific number of RPS students and families as their check-in person, and nurturing relationships with one another and with our RPS community. The bottom line is this: we cannot all be in this together if we continue to lose any more of our Revere Public School community, including our students, their families, our teachers, and our staff. We must prioritize all of our health and safety. And the only way to do that is to say that no one should be going to school right now. We can get through this all together.
Thank you, Ashley. There's one more hand up, Mr. Mayor. I think that we're close to the 15 minutes, but could we do one more person?
We'll have this be the last one, and then we'll move on to the next item on the agenda.
The last person is McDonald Music, which I will venture a guess is Lance.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to Dr. Kelly. Thank you, Mayor Arrigo. Thank you, school committee, for hearing me tonight. My name is Lance McDonald, and I'm the music teacher at the Lincoln School. And I'm about to begin my 11th year and my 8th year teaching Revere students. And while I am dismayed that we're not able to return to a normal school year this year, I am extremely happy that Revere has chosen to follow science and data and recommendations from local health officials to begin the school year virtually. As a working parent, I want to urge the school committee to allow RPS teachers the flexibility to teach virtually from their own homes if they choose. I have 2 young children at home, and my normal full-time childcare solutions for them have been disrupted. I suspect that if my children rejoin daycare or in-person school, exposure and resulting quarantines will lead to more time where my children must remain home. If RPS teachers are trusted to teach virtually from their own homes, if they choose, they can continue to serve the children of Revere when facing such inevitable disruptions. If I'm asked to work from my empty classroom each day, I will likely be forced to take a leave from teaching, or leaving Revere students with virtual substitutes rather than having the consistent, familiar instructor who is ready and able to teach from home. I understand that teaching from home while caring for children is not ideal or easy, but it is one that has worked for me and my family in the spring semester. And I, like many of my colleagues, have spent this summer preparing for the inevitability of virtual teaching. And I've made personal investments in home technology so that I can be better able to teach my students. I urge you to trust Revere teachers to make this decision for themselves rather than forcing them to teach in empty classrooms this fall. Thank you. Thank you all for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Lance.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. We'll move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we have just really a brief report tonight. We have continued to work on our reopening plans. We're going to be updating the document that's currently on the website by the end of this week. We are integrating more information that we've received from medical professionals and from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And as you know, that report does contain the names of the nearly 100 teachers and educators who participated in that and continue to guide our decision making as we continue to work with our health professionals, Dr. Kong, and the Revere COVID response team in all of our decision making. So we will be putting some updates there. There are some decisions that have yet to be made. As the committee knows, we are currently in negotiations with the Revere Teachers Association. Subsequent to those negotiations, we will need to engage in conversation with all of the other units that we work with. Sorry. And engage in negotiations with those groups as well. So hopefully we have 2 meetings scheduled this week. One is on Thursday and one is on Friday. And so I'm hopeful that by the end of the week, we can be at a place where we're making decisions and defining really what the school year is going to look like as we begin to reopen. So I just wanted to share that brief update. Under grants and budgeting, I did want to let the committee know that we had applied for, and I mentioned this in earlier meetings, we had applied for a $600,000 supplemental technology grant through the state, which is required to have matching funding attached to it. And I had shared with you the plan to use $600,000 of our CARE Act funding to match that grant through the purchase in order to support the purchase of Chromebooks for every student. The grant came back at only $328,000, so it was less than what we had hoped for. So that's a little bit of bad news. The good news is that we were able to engage with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education to make one large purchase of the of Chromebooks, which was substantially cheaper than we had anticipated. So we're not at exactly where we hoped to be with the number of Chromebooks on order, but we're close to that number. In total, we have ordered 3,700 new Chromebooks, 1,200 through the state program, and 2,500 on our own. A challenge there is that Chromebooks are on back order nationwide right now. So that's one of the reasons that the state had put together this package to help some districts like Revere obtain Chromebooks more quickly. And so we do anticipate that we'll have the 1,200 Chromebooks by late September, but the additional order of 2,500 is not anticipated to arrive until November or December. So working with Jonathan, our plan is to, Jonathan Ferrara, I should clarify for the people at home, who runs our IT department. Our plan is to pull together every machine that we have in the district and use those for distribution to students who don't already have a one-to-one device. And then use the new devices that we get later in the school year to backfill for staff and teachers. Because part of our goal was to put a Chromebook in the hands of every paraprofessional and every teacher so that they're not relying on their own devices to do some of the remote learning pieces and things like that. So that's the plan that we have underway. And we're going to continue to work on that. I think that Matt did a pretty good job on the budget review tonight. So there's not much more to add there. We are absolutely on a shoestring this year and doing everything we can to make sure that we have enough to keep things going and keep moving forward. We did also, one of the things that we had hoped to order, but were not available nationwide, was webcams to set up in classrooms so that teachers could teach from their classroom and engage students remotely. And so on a bright spot, we did locate a vendor who has some and have ordered 400 webcams, which we'll be paying for through the district technology budget. So that is in the works. And then finally, I wanted to give a quick update on the new Revere High School. I want to thank the mayor and Dr. Perella and Rich Viscay and Kyle Svensson, who were part of the OPM selection committee. I can tell you, being part of that committee, it was a boatload of work. I think we probably each did about 20 hours just on that in the last week. There were 9 companies that submitted proposals to become our OPM. We first read all of those proposals, which ranged from 50 pages to over 100 pages each. We went through all of that paperwork and independently rated each of the companies on how we thought they responded to the pieces we asked them to speak to in their application. And then each of us sent our ratings to Michael Picardi, who's done an unbelievable job pulling this together for us. So thank you to Michael as well. And Michael actually went through all of our results and identified for us who the highest ranking companies were. And we had an option from MSBA to interview anywhere from 3 to 5 of the applicants. We decided to do the top 5. And very unanimously came to consensus on who the top company was after we conducted interviews and reference checks on all 5. We came to a unanimous decision, and that decision is in Michael's hands now. He's working on some paperwork, which we need to get to the MSBA for tomorrow. And then he, together with the mayor and Rich Viscay, are going to formally inform the company that we would like to enter a contract negotiation. And then hopefully that contract negotiation can happen in the next week or so. And we will be placed on the agenda for the September 14th, I believe it is, MSBA OPM approval meeting. And from there, we will start with design team selection and start looking at different parcels of land and figuring out what the most viable solution for a new high school is. So I will stop talking and see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Any members have any questions? Ms. Ty?
You're on mute, Carol. Sorry.
I said I don't have a question. I just imagine that everyone else shares that kind of excitement that you have when you're at the beginning stages, and that having successfully got through one of the really difficult steps. So thanks a lot to the mayor and to you and to Rich Viscay and Michael Picardi and all the other people who are really helping out. It's wonderful to know that we have you there representing us. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. And I think you inadvertently turned off your camera too.
Thank you, Ms. Ty. Mr. D'Ambrosio?
Thanks. Just going back quickly to a few items ago, you mentioned buying cameras, purchasing cameras. Did you guys also purchase microphones along with them, or are they equipped with them? I'm getting a few questions about that right now.
We did not purchase microphones at this time, no.
Is that all, Mr. Ambrosio?
Yep, that's it. Thank you.
Any other members? Okay.
Can I speak to one more thing, Mr. Mayor, because this came up several times in the public speak portion of the meeting? So I just want to clarify for everybody who's listening that we have no intention of forcing or commanding any child back to school. In our reopening plan, one of the things that we talked a lot about with the teams of teachers and administrators who designed those plans was the need for some kids to benefit better from any kind of a learning environment in person. And I'll speak directly to our special needs students more than our English learner students. And when we say special needs, we mean the kids who have some significant learning disabilities that would preclude just about any kind of learning in a remote environment. We understand that a lot of kids have medical complications that would mean that in-person learning is not appropriate for them. And we would be working with their parents to make sure that we could provide some level of services for those kids. But there are a lot of kids with significant special needs who are not medically complicated, who would benefit greatly from in-person learning. And some of the occupational therapy, speech therapy, and physical therapy services that these kids receive simply cannot be rendered in the same way in a remote environment. There are some kids who can handle those services from a distance with a knowledgeable adult guiding them through the internet and perhaps a supportive parent there to help them as well. But that is not the reality for all of our kids. And, you know, I just wanted to clarify that at no point have we ever said that we're going to command children back to school or order children to learn in person. What we have always said, and what it says in our opening plan, is that we want to give parents options for what they think is in the best interest of their child, knowing their child and knowing what will best suit their needs. Now, we know that if we were to put a blanket invitation out there to any child to join us right now for in-person learning, that we would get a large number such that it would not be prudent to bring such a large number together in our schools. What we are responsibly doing is inviting some of our most vulnerable students who physically and medically can come back to school to do so if their parents feel that that is in their best interest. And so I just wanted to say that because I feel like based on some of the comments that I heard tonight during public speak, there is some misconception about children being forced into school needlessly and medically complex kids being forced into school, which would endanger them. And I also want to assure everybody who's listening that those ideas have been well supported by the medical community.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. Any members? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar.
I move to accept the
Motion
consent.
to move. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, members.
Oh, Doc?
Muted.
Oh, there you go.
I think we could just have a simple voice vote.
All right. So, Mr. Stacy Bronson Rizzo,
Absent.
Mr. Anthony D'Ambrosio,
Yes.
Mr. Michael Ferranti,
Yes.
Miss Susan Gravelis,
Yes.
Mr. Frederick Sanella,
Yes.
Miss Carol Ty,
Yes.
Mayor Brian Arrigo.
Yes. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the report of subcommittees.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Ty.
It's not exactly a subcommittee. It's you and Mr. Sedella and I are in the process of negotiating with the Revere Teachers Association. And as Dr. Kelly mentioned earlier, we're going to continue negotiations. We'll be talking about that and helping to finalize the plan on working on Thursday and Friday.
Thank you, Ms. Ty. Any other members? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to old business. Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Any members have any new business? None, we'll move on to school committee interests. Seeing none, we will move on to motions.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to read these for Mrs. Rizzo, who had to leave for personal reasons.
Ms. Gravellisi, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, the following, let's see, these communications regarding encumbrances and invoices. Vote of the school committee, a vote of the school building subcommittee is requested on the encumbrances. The first one is Hill International additional fees for extended project timeline from December 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2019 regarding litigation. Encumbrance number 064 dated 5/28/2020 for $4,125. So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, all opposed? So
Aye.
moved.
Next encumbrance number 065R dated 7/16/2020 for $1,080. So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, all opposed? Aye.
Aye.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next encumbrance is Limbach Company LLC, New England Spencer Gas Booster, encumbrance number 1218041-1, dated 2/27/2019 for $1,045. So moved.
Question,
Second.
please. Question before we vote on it.
Mr. Franti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Diane, how come the invoice is like a year late and what is exactly it for?
So these invoices that we're looking at right now are for the ongoing litigation and the Hill International's involvement in working with our attorneys.
What about the other one for the New England Spencer gas booster?
Oh, okay. And the gas booster is something that just hadn't been paid. This, Michael, as I'm sure you'll recall from the other school buildings, as they clean out the paperwork, sometimes they find one or two items that hadn't been paid. And this should be the very last ones. We actually have received the final commissioning report, and I'm going to be seeking the mayor's signature on that tomorrow, which will officially close out and end the Hill School Building project. 5 years after.
Wow, what do you know?
Amen.
I know.
Amen.
Don't
Thank
pick
you.
them for the new school.
Okay, Mr. Franti, are you all set?
Yeah, I'm all set. I'm set. I'm good.
All right. So there was a motion and a second. All in favor, all opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Ms. Gravellisi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The following invoices, invoice number 064 dated 5/28/2020 for $4,125. So moved.
Second.
All in favor, all opposed?
Aye.
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 So moved.
Aye, aye, aye.
Next invoice is 065R dated 7/16/2020 for $1,080. So moved.
Second.
All in favor, all opposed?
Aye.
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 So moved.
And the final one is invoice number 1218041-1 dated 2/27/2019 for $1,045. So moved.
Second.
All in favor, all opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Any other members have anything before we adjourn?
So the one other thing, Mr. Mayor, if we could, under motions, you were going to take a vote to approve the school activity accounts.
Was that under the consent
That was in the
calendar, Dr.
consent
Kelly?
calendar, though. That was in the consent calendar.
It,
If you want to vote separately,
No,
that's
but
fine.
The
he told us
discussion, the discussion was under the consent calendar with
But-
Cruz, but you have to take a vote in a regular meeting to be submitted to the Department of
That's
Zoning
right.
for the orientation.
Oh, then we have to pull it out then. We have to take it out and then vote on it.
Yes.
well,
A motion
Well, I-
to remove the student activity count from the consent calendar to the floor for a vote.
Second,
There's motion, all in favor, all opposed?
aye.
So moved. And Ms. Gravely, do you want to speak on the item?
Yes, thank you. Let me pull it up. Okay, we are voting on the student activity account. These accounts give the school principals the ability to distribute funds to their clubs during the school year. So this needs to be voted on in a public meeting for these funds to be available.
Motion to approve the student activity accounts?
I'll second it.
So moved.
Second motion.
Okay, roll call of the members.
Doc, you muted.
Mr. Stacy Bronson Rizzo, Mr. Anthony,
I'm sorry.
Mr. Anthony D'Ambrosio,
Yes.
Mr. Michael Ferranti,
Yes.
Miss Susan Gravellisi,
Yes.
Mr. Frederick Sonella,
Yes.
Miss Carol Ty,
Yes.
Mayor Brian Arrigo.
Yes. Okay. So seeing no further business before the committee, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the
So
motion. to
moved.
adjourn.
Okay. We are hereby adjourned at 6:51, and hope everyone has a great evening. Thank you.
Take care.
Thank
Thank you, everybody.
The next
Thank you.
regular meeting of the school.
Thank you,
committee is
Dr.
scheduled
Kelly.
for September 21st.
Next meeting.
I apologize, Dr. Kelly. The next meeting of the school committee is scheduled to be September 22nd or 21st.
I have 21st on my, I
That's
imagine it's the 22nd. I imagine I
Yes,
wrote it down right.
It's the 22nd, I believe.
On, I mean. Okay,
So we will be adjourned until September 22nd.
I suspect we'll meet before then, but that's the next regular meeting.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it.
Lots of meetings before then.
Thank you all.
Thank-
Good night,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
And
Good night.
thank you.
Thank you.